Hello, I'm Meghan Charpentier and I'm here today at the Cabarrus Health Alliance in the Wellness Kitchen, and we're going to be making a Chipotle peach salsa today. Summer is right around the corner and we are going to be having an abundance of produce, especially peaches here in North Carolina, so I'm going to show you how to make a quick and simple homemade healthy salsa recipe that your family is going to love. So all we're going to be actually using today is frozen peaches. So surprisingly, you can substitute either frozen, canned, or fresh for this recipe. If you want to go ahead and use canned, you just want to make sure you're going to rinse and drain them from the liquid. If you have the fresh peaches, you're going to want to go ahead and skin them and get the pits out. Or you can go ahead and use my favorite method of just using frozen peaches from the grocery store. A small 16-ounce bag like this is actually perfect size for the recipe, and we are going to just start by chopping the frozen peaches. It's best to let them thaw out just a little bit so your hands don't freeze when making this salsa, but as you can see, I've already started to chop the entire bag, which does create quite a bit of salsa. So what we're going to go ahead and do is chop the remaining peaches here, and when you have your frozen sliced peaches, they're typically going to come out like this from the bag. If you already have them pre-chopped, that's even better. It saves you definitely some time, but if not, you just got to go ahead and just slice them up into little bite-sized pieces. Alternatively, you could go ahead and throw these into a food processor if you had one, and go ahead and just kind of pulse them finely, so that way you're not creating too much juice, but you're going to go ahead and have enough of the smaller pieces to make a salsa, to resemble what you would typically think of when you think of a salsa. So we're going to add the rest of those peaches in there, and then the next ingredient we're actually going to add is red onion. So if you did not prefer red onion, you can certainly switch out white, Vidalia, whatever you prefer to have at home. But we're just going to use about 1/4 of a cup here of the red onion. So I'm going to slice it, and depending on how you and your family enjoy onions, you can go ahead and chop them super finely, so that way you're not really noticing if you're getting any onion within each bite, or you can slice it thicker, so that way folks can pick it out if they're not the biggest fan of onions. But certainly it's up to you how you would prefer to go ahead and have that. We'll just kind of do an in-between here. And the more onion you want to add, it'll certainly give it a different flavor. We're going to add, like I said, only 1/4 of a cup here today, which is about 1/4 of a red onion, or 1/4 of any size onion, as long as it's not too oversized. But it's really up to you how much you want to go ahead and add. So we have that chopped up here. And then the next piece we're actually going to go ahead and add is cilantro. So typically salsas will have some cilantro base to them, and it's really just going to help give it that extra flavor and spice that you might be looking for in your traditional salsas. What's great about making your own salsa at home is that you're in control of how much you want to put in and what the actual ingredients are. Sometimes jarred salsas will have a lot of extra added sugar, or it might actually just not contain the ingredients that you want it to have. So we're going to go ahead and chop this cilantro. Really up to you how finely, again, you want to chop this as well. Some folks would prefer it to be extremely well diced, so they're not getting it in each bite. But for the most part, we're going to just go ahead and make sure it's finely minced and add in about 1/2 of a bunch. So if you're going to the grocery store or even at your local farmer's market, you might find bunches of cilantro, and you could go ahead and add the whole thing if you'd like, but you also could go ahead and just use it for a different recipe and go ahead and have this much for this one. So it does chop down pretty finely, like any other fresh herb would do. But for the most part, we're just going to go ahead and make sure that's going to be added. The next piece we're going to add is actually some fresh garlic as well. If you'd rather use garlic powder, you could certainly go ahead for that route, but do not use garlic salt. It'd be best to use the actual fresh garlic or fresh garlic powder. So we just have a garlic mincer here, and I'm going to go ahead and push that right into our bowl. And what's great about this recipe is you can make it in advance. And I will say the longer that this recipe sits in your refrigerator, the more powerful all of these flavors will become. And that's really where you're going to get that great salsa that everyone's going to remember that and actually want your recipe, I will have to say. So we have our garlic, lime. Can't forget a salsa without a lime here. So we're going to go ahead and just slice open our lime and squeeze the juice right into the bowl as well. We have that. And if you have wanted more lime, you could certainly do so, or if you'd rather enjoy a lemon in there, that's also just fine. Whatever you really got on hand. And I also forgot to mention that instead of peaches too, you could use frozen mango or fresh mango. So it's really up to you what you prefer to have. I've made it both ways and it's an extremely tasty recipe both ways. So we're gonna dump the rest of the cilantro in here and our red onion. We're actually going to also add some ginger. So you might have seen ginger root at the grocery store. It doesn't look super appealing when you're in the grocery store. It typically comes in a large bunch, and you can go ahead and break it off into whatever size you want to purchase. Usually purchase it per pound of what you're going to be buying at the grocery store, but a lot of recipes will actually call per inch of ginger grated. So it breaks really easy, it's very pliable. I just use a zester when it comes to going ahead and grating this. It's super simple and doesn't take away any of the flavor. You have a couple options to how you're going to go ahead and do this. So you could go ahead and actually peel the skin back using just a regular vegetable peeler and slice off the skin. Or you could just go ahead and start grating it. Whenever you're grating this, it's going to be finely grated, so you actually won't notice that there's any skin missing or on there. And again, I always say a little bit extra skin on any of the roots that we're using, as long as you've washed it beforehand. It's giving you a little bit extra fiber in your meal. But we're just going to go ahead and grate about 1 inch of this right into our bowl. And this way, ginger, I don't know if you've tried it, but there's also the dry ginger. It goes extremely well with so many great dishes, especially when you're looking at like stir fries or on salads. You might typically maybe use ginger in like tea. It's a great inflammatory option to go ahead and have on hand. And it really just adds a lot of zest to any type of recipe you are using. So we have our ginger added here, and it smells wonderful as well, so it's definitely something to keep on hand at home. We're going to get the rest of the ginger out from the inside of the zester here. Add that into our bowl. And lastly, we're going to be adding, to give it that chipotle peach salsa that we were talking about, chipotle peppers that are in adobo sauce. You can find these in the international aisles at the grocery store. It has more of a smoked flavor. They're not as spicy as you might be thinking off the top of your head, but we're only going to add about 2 tablespoons of these chopped adobo peppers into our salsa here. So we're going to go ahead and get those out. These are already chopped for us. And simply enough, we're just going to go ahead and mix everything together. So as I said, the longer that this can sit in the refrigerator, the better the flavor will be. However, it is definitely excellent as is once you've created the entire salsa. You can certainly double or triple this recipe depending on how large your family is or what the occasion might be that you're making a salsa. But it's super simple to have on hand, and then you're getting your full serving of a fruit that typically salsas don't contain. So you've got everything in here. We've got our red onion, our cilantro, our peaches, and then of course the ginger, as well as the garlic and the adobo peppers. So we're ready to go ahead and taste it. I like to serve them with pita chips, or if you have just regular corn chips at home, that would be perfect. We want to make sure there's not a whole lot of added sodium in the chips that you do choose. So choose wisely here to make it a really well-rounded dish. And then for the most part, you just get to go ahead and enjoy. So I hope you guys do enjoy this peach salsa if you're going to make it at home. The recipe is found below if you're watching online, and if not, check your waiting room and be sure to take this recipe card home for you guys to enjoy this summer. Thank you so much.